and welcome to episode number 52 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeartRadio. My name is Esports and Gaming Insider Jason Fanelli, and whoo boy, do we have a show for you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is June, and when it's June, that means it's E3 season. Now, last year, this being episode number 52, we are also officially celebrating our first birthday here at Cheesesteaks and Controllers. We are old enough to walk. So, last year, I was not able to do an E3 preview show because there wasn't an E3 to preview. Thank you, COVID-19. But that is not the case anymore. Here we are with a weekend chock full of E3 greatness, starting on Thursday with Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest extravaganza. This is an early edition also of Cheesesteaks and Controllers, so I can get those predictions in before the craziness starts. But we will get into that. Before we do anything else, let's get into the 6 in 60 seconds. The June Joust tournament in the Overwatch League is set, with the New York Excelsior taking on the Atlanta Reign and the Shanghai Dragons facing off against the Dallas Fuel. Meanwhile, Philadelphia Fusion support Funny Astro has finally joined the team in Korea and will be part of the Summer Showdown qualifiers. Fighting Game Tournament CEO, or Community Efforts Orlando, has announced a live in-person tournament taking place December 3rd through the 5th in Orlando. Ubisoft has announced Rainbow Six Quarantine has been renamed Rainbow Six Extraction, and Prince of Persia's The Sand of Time remake will not appear at Ubisoft Forward on Saturday. Deep Silver / Koch Media has also confirmed no Dead Island, Saints Row, Metro, or Time Splitters at this year's E3. And finally, EA and DICE have lifted the curtain on Battlefield 2042, a multiplayer-only first-person shooter coming this October with 128 players in a single match. Those are your 6 in 60 seconds. And as always, the 6 in 60 seconds are brought to you tonight by the sponsor of Cheesesteaks and Controllers, Ghost Shaver. The Ghost Shaver is a shave above the rest, designed to feel like it's an extension of your arm, allowing users to reach anywhere on the head, face, or body. The precision cutting system gives you a close and smooth shave every single time, with 5 different rotary flex action, super thin blades, and a patented handheld design that fits into the palm precisely. Go to ghostshaver.com to check it out and get yours. That's Ghost Shaver, a shave above the rest. All right, folks, yes, those are the 6 in 60 seconds for the week. Glad to see fighting game tournaments coming back with CEO, and the words Funny Astro joining the team in Korea always makes me happy as a Fusion fan. But speaking of that Overwatch League, the June Joust tournament is upon us. The qualifiers are over, and just like the May Melee, I had to bring in a voice, a ringer, to talk us through what the heck happened in the June Joust qualifiers and what's going to happen in the tournament. So once again, joining me is esports host and my fellow contributor to esports.gg, Will English IV. Will, how the heck are you?
I am amazing. This is like just like the Melee of lore. The June Joust was also a lot of drama coming into week 3 as well, coming into the tournament. And man, like, throw your expectations out of the window. I mean, it was a little bit of a different format with the fact that we had hero bans this time around. But man, like, I would not have imagined. Well, I would imagine half of the field being in qualifying for the June Joust this time around. I mean, we had some staple favorites with Shanghai and Dallas coming back, right? But like, the other 2 teams, it's definitely shocking. You can't see it through the power of radio, but I'm wearing my NYXL jersey right now.
I bet you are.
Celebration.
I bet you are. Same thing. You expect Dallas and Shanghai. Well, honestly, I wouldn't have expected Dallas again. Part of me thought they were a fluke, but bringing in Pine definitely helped them out. So they're back with Shanghai, and then Excelsior and Atlanta on the other side. I had no expectations for Atlanta going into that qualifier against San Francisco, none at all, and they blanked them. They just completely rolled them. Nothing about the Overwatch League makes sense. I'm supposed to figure out how to make this league, good for sports betting when esports betting becomes part. That's part of the reason I'm on this radio station, and I can't do it because it's completely I can't even think of the word. It's unpredictable.
Right. If you're betting in the chalk, if you're betting on chalk and you're just betting on position and you're on the outside looking in, you're losing money. That's how this works. The top seeded teams in the West are 0-4 making it into the bracket.
That's crazy.
It's insane. Being 4-0 means nothing in the West. It just means like you just have one last match to play. Your hands are cold, and you have these upstarts, these crazy teams that come in and just qualify right on top of it. Just take advantage of the situation. So I'm with you, man. Like I have a problem betting, right? This is why I'm in the booth. I mean, I wouldn't be able to bet based on the information that I have, because like what does it matter? It matters about the result. And so congratulations to Atlanta Reign for making it in. But man, I mean, it's like how they got there, just following the same trend for the main melee. Just being second, being 4-0, being top seed does not help you. It's a blessing and a curse
now,
at the same time.
I am curious if the same result for Atlanta, the same result that happened for Dallas in the main melee will happen with Atlanta here, getting that blessing and going through the San Francisco Shock all the way to the end of the tournament. But we'll get into that. We'll get into those predictions in a little while. I do want to talk about what happened in the June Joust, specifically with the Philadelphia Fusion. Kind of dug themselves a grave in the first week, going 0-2 with a 3-1 loss count, so -4 map differential coming into the weekend. Really put them in a bind considering what happened in week 2. They had to go perfect 3-0 in order to make it into the qualifying sessions, and came up one map short. To what do you contribute the Valiant sneaking that map out?
You know, here's the thing, right? Like I was rooting for the Fusion the entire time, because I was saying them like.
Sure, you were NYXL jersey.
but hear me out for a second, right? They were 0-2 going into that week, but then all the rest of the teams in the bracket were 1-1.
True.
So you had Chengdu, you had Seoul, and you had Guangzhou, like 1-1 going in. So like in my article for esports.gg, I was just like, look, if the Philadelphia Fusion can pull off the double 3-0s, then they put themselves in position. And then the NYXL, my team, yes, I'll shill for them. We're 2-2 looking on the outside looking in, and I'm just like, man, that's not gonna hold. That's not gonna hold. I don't want to debate it. But either way, there's one other factor that I think came into this tournament this time, is that week 3 of the tournament for the East, they were playing in front of a live audience in China.
That's
so
true.
You imagine that LA Valiant, again, they had nothing to play for. They were 0-2 and nowhere near 80 standings. Like no one, and they were effectively 0-8 between both tournaments. Like they have not won a single game. But I imagine, for me, as a spoiler alert, you're playing in front of a live audience. You know what's on the line. Hey, let's just sneak this one map out, wherever, and just play spoiler alert for the Fusion. So unfortunately, Fanelli, they just came up one map short, and also too, they were watching some of the later matches to see if maybe the map differential will go in their favor, but it did not.
Nope.
And so it works out. But like, I mean, I imagine as the Valiant, just again, you have nothing to play for, but if you can take somebody down with you, I mean, that's motivation enough.
It's got to feel good. Yeah, it's going to give them some momentum going into the Summer Showdown qualifiers in 2 weeks' time. And honestly, the Fusion, they did tie the team that qualified in front of them. Unfortunately, the team that qualified in front of them had beaten them in week 1 in the New York Excelsior. If it was a team that they hadn't played or a team that they had beaten, they'd be there. It just happened to be one of the teams that took them down. It sucks. It does, but hopefully they learn from this and do much better in the Summer Showdown. I will say, though, I was happy with their control maps, because their control maps in week 1 were putrid. So to be able to come back and do much better in both of those control maps gave me some hope. Now I just need them to, follow through. Last year, the Summer Showdown, if you recall, the finals of that tournament, still one of the best Overwatch League matches I have ever watched. Paris versus Philadelphia, with Paris taking it. So Summer Showdown, I'm feeling good that they might be able to break through this wall here and get into these Final Four. I'm probably just, reaching and hoping and projecting, but we'll see.
I mean, it's not too far-fetched. I mean, like, again, they still have the playoffs to play for as well, towards the end of the year. And they're in a pretty good standing right now. I mean, like, so their efforts have not gone to waste, but, but these results, though, it's just like you want to see them break through and play in one of these brackets in either the Summer Showdown or the Countdown Cup. So, I mean, we'll see if they can pull through, but man, I mean, like they're still doing good. Like, I wouldn't lose too much hope in the Fusion just yet, because it's about what you do in the playoffs, right? And so as long as you're in that top 6, you're in pretty good settings, and there's still the play-ins for the playoffs as well. So it's just like there's still hope, Jason. There's still hope.
That is true. And with Funny Astro coming back into the roster, it sounds like making his way to Korea. That's a very, very good thing. Just real quick before we get on to the next topic here, how much of an impact do you think he'll make in the first week or so of the Summer Showdown qualifier?
I mean, if nothing else, I mean, if Pine coming out of retirement is going to help to push the fuel a little bit for it, then I'm betting on Funny Astro. They must know something right for him to come across, and it's just like he has a pedigree. He has played some major teams in the Overwatch League thus far, so I expect him to do well in the first week and just provide a huge impact.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the next thing I want to get into is those hero pool bans that we spoke about just a little bit in the beginning. Removing Tracer, Sombra, Reinhardt, and Zenyatta from the meta. A huge part of the Melee, if you ask me. A lot of teams seem to be affected more than the others. I blamed the lack of Tracer for our week 1 woes because Rascal just seemed lost not having a Tracer to play. How do you feel that the hero bans ended up affecting the June Joust as a whole, and what heroes do you think may be in danger come Summer Showdown?
I mean, here's the thing. Like, you imagine what the bans for this tournament were really affecting it. And just to explain for the audience here in radio, if you imagine a football team in set play and set formation, you got your wideouts and everything else. In Overwatch League, you have the dive composition. So 2 heroes, Tracer and the Zenyatta, were banned out of this tournament. So you imagine most of your dive comps, which is the most popular set play in Overwatch League, is completely flat. What do you do with that? And then if you want to go brawl, in your escort and hybrid maps, now you've got Reinhardt that's out. So you lose that shield, you use that mobile shield. So what do you do? How do you set that up? I mean, I don't know if it was a target ban. And again, you have Overwatch League telling us that like, oh, it's just based on percentage and picks and everything else, right? But just like, who knows, right? Somebody might be in the background going, let's just target ban Jonak and remove his Zenyatta and see how they do, right? So I'm not sure who's going to be like, I'm not sure if who's going to be in danger of being picked out for the next tournament, but I imagine that the Winston might go out, and I imagine the Zarya might, I know it's just one tank, but like, right. I imagine Winston and Zarya are definitely like candidates as well, and then for the support, I mean, Mercy might also be on top as well, because you're going to ban the Zen and you don't have a sustain, so like most people were rolling with Mercy as one of their supports.
Sure.
I mean, I imagine that like Mercy might also be on the line, and then on the other side, I mean, like I'm not sure on DPS side, because like I saw a lot of different rotations around both about the dive comp, just kind of like a half dive comp, and just like with your mobility healers with like Soldier and Doomfist. I mean, they might be in danger, but I'm not sure right now, so I don't want to put any predictions out there
right.
and be loud wrong. But either way, I mean, I definitely think on the tank and support side, it's just like you ban one good support and you're gonna go with the other. So Mercy might be on the chopping block on that side.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just, in the matches that I was able to watch these last couple of weeks, a lot of Winston, a lot of Mercy, so I was leaning towards those in tank and support respectively. But yeah, with damage, I'm not exactly sure. There's been a lot of different, maybe Echo would be one that I might lean towards, because I saw a lot of Echo, especially in week 3. But we will see what happens with those hero pools. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have a June Joust tournament to talk about here. And probably the most surprising of the 4 teams in there, if you ask me, is the New York Excelsior, MYXL. Not that I didn't think that they were capable. I just thought after their poor Melee showing, just not showing up at all, I thought they were going to get rolled out of here really, really quick, and then they beat the Fusion, went 2-0 in that first week, and then all of a sudden they're 2-2, and they sneak in right at the end, and so far, those are the teams that seem to be doing well. What gives New York Excel a slight edge being an underdog going into this?
I mean, but let's be clear though. They didn't sneak into the tournament again. Like they were 2-2 watching in week 3. And again, just previously they had 3 teams looking at their spot, going, "Okay, you're 2-2." Past results said that 2-2 is not going to cut it, not going to get you into. Their differential was horrible.
Right.
I will just say though, like again, being a little bit contrarian here, like against my team. Being an underdog in this particular situation might help them. It might help them get a little bit further in the tournament, which we'll talk about in the predictions. However, it's like maybe the hero bans like kind of like maybe that melee tournament kind of gave them some inspiration to kind of like put clutch up and work better. Like especially with the hero band and stuff like that. Again, Jonax favorites Zenyatta was out, and some of the other teammates were just their comfort heroes were taken away. But maybe that's a testament to being an underdog and just like adapting and just kind of being a professional in the Overwatch League and adapting to get into the tournament. I mean, but I don't like NYXL's chances. And again, this is me being, I don't like NYXL's chances in June Joust based on the pedigree of the rest of the teams in the bracket right now.
Yes, I agree with that. Let's talk about a couple teams that did not quite make it in before we get into our predictions, specifically the San Francisco Shock and the Houston Outlaws, both of which looked gangbusters in the month of May and then suddenly just kind of fell back down to earth. Specifically in the Shock's case, they didn't make any changes. They thought they could just ride with what they had despite falling short. And even though, as you wrote in your notes, they are still playing well enough to make it into the playoffs, should their current pace continue, they do kind of have to make a regional bracket in order to really strengthen their position, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like they're not safe. Let's play it like that. They're not safe. True. They're second place, but you still got the rest of the season to go for the Shock. But again, I don't understand. Like the Shock did so well. They got the 4-0. And they were rolling pretty good. And then the last time they had 3-1, I believe, in the melee standings. But like again, it's just I don't know about this West curse, man. I don't know about the West, and I don't know because again, top seeds are 0-4. So I don't know. Like if you ask me this question directly, and like what is it? Like, do they need to like just practice more? Do they need to sleep better? I'm not like you would think that like yeah you did so well and you were so dominant, and then just like the one match, and then of course the memes came out with the super memes came out when they lost to Atlanta. It's just like what we're losing this match again. So I'm not sure, man. Just like I wish I could be in their heads. I wish I could be in the room and just like all right guys, this already happened to us once. Let's not let this happen again. To getting into the tournament.
Yeah, I would be shocked if they didn't just nose to the grindstone, head down, roll their way into the Summer Showdown bracket at this point. They have to be very frustrated going 0-2 in regional brackets
they have to.
So far. So we'll see what happens with them. And then Houston, same thing. They came out so strong. They beat the San Francisco Shock in that amazing match in the May Melee, and then just kind of seemed pedestrian, seemed run-of-the-mill in the June Joust. What do you think happened there?
I mean, just like I was excited mostly for the Houston Outlaws because I was thinking like Jake coming back and some it's keeping they lost some of the key members of their team, but like Jake and a couple other players, I'm thinking like all right cool, they're serious, they're going to get back in, and the results in the melee gave them some promise. But I think the hero bands, like for most of the teams, they were able to adapt to the hero band meta, but like it affected some teams more than others, and I think Houston was a victim of that. So they kind of had set based on having every hero available, but like the hero bands seem to just kind of slow them down and you're not finding an answer. So unfortunately they have to watch from the outside looking in. I mean they were the other first seed team going into the June Joust, but they got knocked out again. Yeah. It's just like, how does this work?
They want to play in the qualifiers. They don't want any parts of the regional brackets. Not sure why that is, but eventually they're going to have to get in there if they're going to want to get deeper into the playoffs, right?
I mean, like they lost the Battle of Texas again against the Dallas Field. I'm sorry. They weren't one of the first seeds, but they lost to Dallas again in the qualifier. And I'm just like, come on, Houston. We wanted this to be a comeback story for Houston. We wanted like Houston and Dallas. Like they both seem to be rising at the same time. We wanted both of their teams like that were perennially losing and outside of the playoffs and everything else is just kind of like, no, this is your year. Try this out. Like this is the time to shine. They're not. Well, at least the Dallas Fuel is providing some drama, but the Houston Outlaws, on the other hand, it's not working out for them, and I feel bad because it's just like their fans are so rabid. And I'm sure that they were looking for this the entire time, and they've lost twice now. So we'll see what they can do in the Countdown Cup or in the Summer Showdown, I should say. But like it's gonna be interesting for the rest of the year if this keeps up.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It'll be interesting to see what's going on here. So let's talk about that June Joust bracket. You have submitted to me your prediction bracket on overwatchleague.com. If you have a Blizzard Battle.net account, you can log into it and make your picks to win some prizes, Overwatch League themed prizes, and you have your bracket here for me. First one, we're talking about New York Excelsior and Atlanta Reign in the first round. I here have Atlanta 3-2. You have New York Excelsior 3-1. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, I don't trust in Atlanta. That's just like period dot end of sentence. I don't trust Atlanta. I think that they snuck into I think they snuck into the tournament, right? Like the Dallas Fuel I think earned their spot, but I think Atlanta just like kind of snuck in and took down a vulnerable Shock, and they didn't even play the Shock during the qualifiers, and so like they had the one match because I think the Shock knocked Atlanta out last time, so now it's like this is time for revenge. So they had kind of a motivation play, but I think facing against the NYXL, I don't trust Atlanta. I just think the New York XL Warriors are going to take. I think they're vulnerable. I think they're just happy to be here. And so here's your first introduction to a regional bracket. NYXL is just going to knock them out. So I mean, if you can argue against me, but I just don't trust. I don't trust Atlanta.
No, I normally don't either. But I think I am of the mindset that the New York Excelsior are the Cinderella, and I think I think the ball ends
legit
here, and Atlanta takes them out and knocks them into the lower bracket. I don't trust Atlanta either in the Western qualifiers, but now that they've gotten through the Shock, I feel like that's a big jolt to their confidence, and a team like New York might not be able to match up quite with them. So moving on now to match number 2, we were talking about Dallas and Shanghai, a rematch of the May Melee Melee tournament final, excuse me. And you and I are of the same agreement here that Shanghai will avenge that loss to Dallas, send them to the bottom bracket, and move on to winners round 2. I don't think we're going to argue here that much at all. I think Shanghai just looks better coming in. Dallas looks a little more vulnerable than they did last time. Even with the loss of DM, I don't think it's going to hurt them too much. I think they'll be fine.
No, I mean, I don't think it's going to hurt them at all. But again, as you mentioned, the Dallas Fuel, even though they made it back into June Joust, it's just like I'm not seeing it, man. I'm not like I want to believe, and I want to believe that they're gonna make it through. But like I think they have a chance to make a strong run into this tournament, which we'll talk about later. But Shanghai, on the other hand, I think they're the stronger of the two teams in this matchup here. So I think it's gonna be close, but I think Shanghai's gonna pull this out finally and just like be the dominant team that they are, as we've seen them just be consistent the entire time.
Sure. Now, in the bottom bracket, elimination round 1, you have Atlanta and Dallas. I have New York and Dallas, but our result is the same. I think Dallas does come out of the elimination round, no matter who they play. You think they're going to sweep the rain. I think it's going to be Excelsior 3-1. This is where I think they start to find their mojo again, at least for a couple rounds. Going through that loss, losing to Shanghai, who is looking to avenge their loss in the May Melee, they can take out their frustrations on whoever they see here and move on to the next round. Do you agree with me there?
Absolutely. And the other thing too is for Dallas, I think some teams, I have this theory across all of esports. Like some teams, some players need to play from behind. They lose their first match, they wake the heck up and they go, oh okay, it's serious time. And the only time they have the motivation is just the adrenaline, the fear of losing behind their backs. And so I think Dallas will benefit here. So like it wouldn't have mattered who was in the other side, because like I say, you have Atlanta, I don't, and I have New York. It doesn't matter who's going to be on the other side. Dallas is just going to be like, nope, we got some business to take care of. We need to make it back into the grand finals here. So this is the first step on the long road to recovery.
Yes, 100%. And then winners round 2, Shanghai. You have New York. I have Atlanta. Same thing. Shanghai beating them and getting back into grand finals. I don't think either team can match up to them, especially if it is New York, like in your bracket. Shanghai is very familiar with the Excelsior already, and I just don't see Atlanta really or New York really having any trouble. Giving Shanghai any trouble, excuse me. And then elimination round 2, same thing. You have Excelsior, I have Atlanta in this round 2, but Dallas beats them no matter what and gets back into the grand finals, the same grand finals as May Melee, which is nuts if you ask me. But I think here also, and I think you agree with me on this, Shanghai takes their ultimate vengeance, redeems themselves after May Melee, and takes the June Joust playoff. What would make Shanghai able to do it, and how can Dallas upset if this is the final that happens?
Well, the idea is that I think the match is going to be close for starters. I mean, if it is Shanghai and Dallas, I think it's going to be extremely close. I mean, like they're familiar with each other. They've already went the distance in the last match, which is why I'm thinking it's going to be 4-3 Shanghai. But here's the thing, if Shanghai is going to pull this off, we just want to make sure that the front line is in place. To make sure that because again, the hero bans do extend all the way to this game, so they just need to keep playing the way that they've been playing, and I believe that they'll pull this off just based based on I think they're the team that benefit the most from the hero bans and being able to adapt and play it off. On the other side, we have Dallas. Now, mind you, also there is kind of a clutch factor. So the only thing that I'm not sure of, right, is where does Pine and his team come into play? Because now he's got a shot at making it into the championship or getting a championship win under his belt. And he's even said in his interviews, like there's another interview on esports.gg, not to plug them too hard, but the idea is
plug away.
They had he's got a chance here to win a championship. He was disappointed that he couldn't do more for the New York Excelsior while he was playing, and so here's an opportunity for Pine to pull this off and actually clutch up and win. And then don't discount Fearless, don't discount other players on the team. They also have kind of the clutch factor as well. So that's the other thing that I'm concerned about, which is why again I have them blazing through the loser side of the bracket and being able to get back into the grand finals. But as far as this matchup here, like I said, just like last time, if it goes the other way, I'm not going to be upset. I would have lost money, but you know what? It would have been a good match either way. So that's what I'm looking forward to in this June Joust tournament.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, not to use a terrible pun, but Dow's just going to run out of fuel. And Shanghai is better.
Better.
And Shanghai will just be better than they are. Okay.
Come on, man.
I am a dad. I am allowed to do these things. But yes, so that's it. So we both have Shanghai winning the June Joust tournament. So a preliminary congratulations to the Atlanta Reign for pulling it out and hosting the trophy on Saturday night. Looking forward to a great weekend Overwatch League. And I am truly indebted to Will English IV to coming on here and giving his expert advice. We will see you again, sir, right before the summer showdown. And hopefully, dang it, we'll be talking about the Fusion hoisting the trophy at the end. Will, thank you again for your time.
Not a problem. Anytime, man.
Yes, folks, we are back with Cheese Steaks and Controllers on a fine E3 week. We will get to those predictions later in the show, but right now I am very, very excited about this next segment and this next interview. Nerd Street Gamers, a big, big name here in Philadelphia, one that we are mentioning a lot, both on this show and with Sean Brace every Thursday, has announced basically the pearly gates of esports. They are reopening for live events starting in July. They have the plans to safely return after this pandemic that has just forced us all to imagine what life would be like back in live events. They're going to do it, and right now we have the VP of events for Nerd Street Gamers, that's Ben Schlegel, is here with us to talk about what is going on here. Ben, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Jason. Appreciate you having me out today.
Absolutely. So as soon as I heard this news, I knew that I had to get you on to talk about this because it's finally here. We're finally getting back to the way esports were intended, played live on a LAN in front of fans and a crazy screaming audience. How does it feel to finally see that light at the end of this tunnel?
So you took the words right out of my mouth, light at the end of the tunnel. It's an amazing feeling. I think for ourselves and everybody over the past year and change, it's been, challenging. And we've seen that across the live event industry as well as, numerous industry as a whole. We're lucky enough at Nerd Street Gamers where, we're able to have a very digital presence. We were able to grow during that time. But at its core, we want to facilitate in-person gaming events and bring folks together under the same roof and have those LANs that everyone's so excited to get back to.
So it sounds like, based on the press release you had put out on Wednesday, that you will be starting with smaller events at local host venues across the country, and then your first big-time, large-scale tournament will be in January at the Nerd Street Winter Championships. I imagine that's intentional. That way you can get back at a smaller scale, work out the kinks a little bit, figure out the safety protocols, and then in January blow the doors off. Is that correct?
That's definitely how we're thinking about it. You're going to see a ramp up here over the next few months. So we'll start with some smaller events leading up to the larger one, like you mentioned. Each month we'll be layering more and more events back on top of others, making sure that we're programming our stores and our locations appropriately so we can make sure we get as many people out as possible. But starting in July, you'll see us start rolling out some smaller, a lot of local community-based events. And then as we get through August, September, October, you'll start to see those continue to ramp up into more local and national programming.
Sure, sure. Now, how often would you say these events will be kicking off in July? Will you be starting with like weekly and then eventually going to every other day and then maybe getting to daily once things are back up and running? Or are you just going straight out of the chute with daily events at your local host venues?
So you'll see, 1 to 2 events to start at each location.
Okay.
And then our goal is to add additional events. We don't know exactly what that cadence is going to be, but week to month, somewhere in there, I'm starting to kind of double up. And it's also not just about adding the events; it's also increasing the capacity too. So just getting more comfortable with having people indoors, what that all looks and feels like. We've been operating at reduced capacities over the entire pandemic when we've been able to be open. So we're really looking forward to getting people back in the stores, getting started with some of this local programming and adding to it over the coming weeks.
So while we were in the pandemic, Nerd Street really did not slow down, seeing, according to the release, a 218% increase in members during time and 200,000 new followers on Twitch. Now, the 200,000 new followers, hopefully that'll keep growing for people who can't be at the live events, but that is a huge membership increase. So how do you plan to mitigate the demand for wanting to get into these live events with your slower starting schedule? I imagine that's going to leave a lot of people who may want to sign up and not be able to kind of, FOMO or feeling left out.
Yeah, and you're seeing that across the live events industry right now, where numerous concert promoters, live event folks, producers, they're saying it's 2021, 2022, second half of 2021, 2022 are going to be record years as far as bookings and there's demand. People want to come back. You see these festivals that are selling out in minutes to hours, and people want to come out. They want to connect. They want to have social experiences, and they want to get back to life before. So we realize there's going to be demand at the beginning. We only have so many seats. Our goal is to make sure that we provide a fair way for people to sign up and come out and enjoy the tournaments. And the more demand we get out of the gates, the more we're going to push to keep adding and adding programming. We plan to be very aggressive on the programming front and make sure that we are hitting communities across the country. And we are lucky over the pandemic. We've had huge increases in membership and followers. Real testament to the team, to the ability to pivot. We had no digital product prior to this. Our focus was completely in person. So to be able to take in the pandemic, pivot, and launch online programming was something that I think it'll kind of go down in company lore as we look back of our growth trajectory. And we're going to continue with that online programming too. So folks will always be able to come on and join our online programming. That's not going away. I see that staying with us, for the long term.
Yeah, I agree. If you can keep growing the way that you did when people weren't allowed to be in your facilities, I can only imagine how impressed they'll be once they'll be able to walk in the door. Now, speaking of people walking into the door, obviously safety, at least in the early going, is going to be a huge issue, both sanitization and masks, perhaps. What policies are you putting in place now that you can talk about, and what should people expect when these events first kick off in July?
Yeah, so with us having locations across the country, there are some changes from state to state and municipality to municipality. So first and foremost, we always follow best practices from the CDC. They've been leader during the pandemic of telling us how we should handle it, how we should socially distance and clean appropriately. So they're definitely at the core of what we do, and then making sure that we adhere to any local, state and local policies regarding mask mandates or social distancing. That's things that myself and our legal team are constantly evaluating over this period to make sure that we're getting people back to live events in a safe way and as responsibly as possible.
Now, people may worry about some stores now, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask, things like that. Are you going to have some sort of way to tell, or are you just going to basically take the same Scouts honor approach as so many local places now seem to be taking?
Yeah, I don't see us doing any type of checking of the vaccines or the vaccine passport. We've talked about it. It's not completely off the table.
Sure.
But as of now, I don't see us, going their route.
That's fair.
But we will have additional, cleaning in place.
Sure.
We recommend everybody bring their own keyboard and mouse. We do have those available if you don't, but just limiting those touch points can really reduce a lot of the risk there.
Yeah.
So we are going to have extra cleaning protocols in place. Our stores have been open for the past few months. They've been used to operating in this environment. So we feel, confident that we can safely return to live events in a safe manner.
No, it's completely fair, and it really puts a lot of businesses like yourselves between a rock and a hard place, because you want to be as safe as possible, but you also don't want to be intrusive. You want to respect people's privacies where you can. So I get that. I completely understand it. Let's move focus a little bit to specifically Philadelphia's local host. Just opened during the pandemic. Opened up in the north. Was it North Philly, Northeast Philly, somewhere up, right?
Yep. Up in Northwest Philly. East Falls.
East Falls.
Bakers.
That's what it is. So yes.
Yep.
So we are very excited to have that local host here. I have not had a chance to get in there yet, but I'm looking very much forward to it. Talk to me a little bit about what you're going to do, if you have it on the schedule yet, in July. Have you had any specific events in mind? Do you know what games you're going to be coming back with, or is that still in the organization phase?
So we definitely do have a list of games that are going to lead us off. Some I can talk about, some I can't.
Cool.
But you will see our local FGC community being one of the first ones to come back.
Excellent.
We're working closely with them. They've been really a cornerstone of our community in Philadelphia since we've started. So it's really important for us to get them back and give them a facility where they can come and grow and be a part of their community. And then from there, there's some major announcements that'll be coming out over the coming weeks and months of our own internal content, as well as our partners that we'll be distributing and promoting through our venues across the country.
Awesome. That is exciting. I have long maintained that no matter what, in any esport, there's none more entertaining than live fighting games. And to hear that they are a big part of your coming back, that makes me very happy. Now, also, you have The Block coming up soon, right there in Center City, a massive Nerd Street facility, which I imagine will also be home to many events when that opens. Will that be included in this smaller rollout in July once it finally does open? Or are you considering this its own thing that'll hold maybe slightly bigger tournaments or more large-scale tournaments moving forward?
Yeah, the great thing about The Block is its versatility. So it's changing the game as far as esports facilities go, and it's bringing a great amenity and facility to the city of Philadelphia to help grow the esports community here. So we're looking forward to working with all of our partners and the community and friends in Philadelphia to grow esports here. Really excited about what we can do at The Block. But you're going to see a few different things. But The Block is really going to be home to a lot of our larger events, especially on the weekends, where some of the models we're looking at is you would qualify through our smaller stores and locations, and then you would have like the championship events at The Block. And our other regional locations that we're opening up. So the goal there is to do larger scale events, but we also realize that it's community as well, and there'll be opportunities for folks to come in and still be a part of that. And it's really going to be the center point of esports community in Philadelphia. So every day of the week there'll be things from small gatherings and boot camps going on all the way up to large scale LANs.
That's awesome. And do you have a announced or a planned grand opening? Has that announcement come through yet? I haven't seen it, and maybe I'm just kind of wondering for my own personal curiosities. But has any movement on the opening of The Block as of today?
Yeah, so I don't have a definitive date, but I can tell you is we have started construction. It is moving along, so we're in a great spot there, and I would definitely anticipate, early fall this year to see us opening up The Block.
Excellent. That is great news. And then my last question has to do with the big facility that you did open in Los Angeles pretty recently. It will be home in January 2022 to the Nerd Street Winter Championships live at local host LA, which has to be very exciting just to hear that sentence spoken out loud. To walk me through this facility a little bit, how is it different from what we might find here in Philly, other than maybe size or scale? Does it compare more to The Block or more to that facility in East Falls?
Yeah, so the LA facility, which it's not open yet, it will be opening.
Oh, it's not open yet. Okay.
So we've opened up a few of our Five Below local hosts in California. There's two currently open. A third one will be opening up in the next month or so. But our regional facilities, which is what we would consider the block,
Okay.
local host Denver and local host LA, which will be opening this winter, are all larger scale facilities. Now, the biggest differences between Philly and Denver and LA is Philly is also the world headquarters of Nerd Street Gamers. So you have our offices there. There's some additional studios and training rooms and whatnot, as well as some of our partners that'll be joining us in that space. So that'll have a much more of a campus feel. LA is a venue, so it's local host LA. It's over 20,000 square feet, and that'll be the home of really West Coast gaming in that community. And we're looking forward to, I think probably one of the first, if not the first, live event will be the Winter Championships taking place there, and that'll be really the culmination of our next championship series that we're going to be coming out with here in this fall.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. Actually, I know that was my last question, but I do have one more small one. You're reopening, obviously, for live events. Will you continue online competitions, as they seem to have worked pretty well in this time, or are you trying to shift more to getting people in your local host venues?
Yeah, so we're definitely going to keep our online business. That's not going to be going away. We've been lucky enough where we've done some of the biggest esports events over the past year online. So we've learned a lot. We've grown a ton from it, and it's going to be a part of our ecosystem. And now we just have to figure out how it all fits together.
Yeah, that's it. You don't want to online tournaments overlapping live tournaments where you might have had people come in, but instead they're choosing to play online. That's true. There's a lot of figuring out to do, but if anyone can do it, that is the VP of Events for Nerd Street Gamers, Ben Schlegel. Thank you so much for your time. I am very, very excited to hear that Nerd Street is coming back live, and I am looking forward to covering every single event that you do. Ben, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was great chatting today.
All right, it is time to close out the show tonight with a segment that I have been very, very excited to do for a year now, because I haven't been able to do one in the year since I started this podcast. Our podcast is 1 year old. If you missed the intro or just forgot about it, happy birthday, Cheesesteaks and Controllers. 1 year old this week. That's very exciting. But since there was no E3 last year, I wasn't able to do any E3 predictions. So now that we're getting a huge slate of gaming news and excitement for the next week starting Thursday. We are recording Wednesday night and posting Thursday 1 day early, specifically because I can give you these predictions. So let's get right into it. The 2021 E3 predictions for Cheesesteaks and Controllers. 10 predictions by yours truly, and 5 from friends of the show. I reached out to a couple different people who offered to give me a prediction of their own, and we're actually going to start with one of those outsourced predictions from friend of the show and fellow member of Fox PHL The Gambler, Mr. John Jansen. Mr. John Jansen reached out. I reached out to him yesterday, and he gave me a prediction that I think is actually pretty solid. Well, half of it is. The other half I'm not quite sure about. And that is that the rumored Donkey Kong 3D platformer being made by the same team who made Super Mario Odyssey is real, and it will be Donkey Kong 64 remastered. Now, I am half with him on this. I do think that Donkey Kong 3D platformer, I think there is fire with that rumored smoke. I do not think, however, it would be Donkey Kong 64 remastered. I do think that it will be a sequel or some sort of follow-up to that story, or it will implement that story in some way, but I do not think that it will be a remaster of Donkey Kong 64. I think that game can be well left alone, and a new story can be told in a 3D platformer setting. That said, I do think that the DK rap will be remastered in some form or fashion, or a new DK rap will be written, because you just have to. You just have to. If you're going to make a new DK 3D platformer and you don't include a DK wrap of some kind, what are you even doing? So, John Jansen, great prediction. I am with you, or half with you on that. The DK 64 remastered part, I'm a little iffy on, but the DK 3D platformer existing, absolutely right. 40th anniversary of Donkey Kong, if my memory serves. So, Perfect time to strike while that iron is hot. My first prediction, Jason's first prediction for E3 2021 is that, speaking of where there is rumored smoke, I do think that Switch Pro is real, and I do think that Breath of the Wild 2 will be its showcase title, just like Breath of the Wild 1 was the showcase title for the original Switch. I do think that is going to happen. I think we're going to see a new iteration of the Switch called the Switch Pro or the Super Nintendo Switch, which is my preferred name, or something like that. It's time. The difference in... I know it's selling like gangbusters, and they don't really have to do this, but the difference in experience between the Switch and the current consoles, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, is such a canyon. It's so monumental that it's very, very hard not to notice it. So I would be shocked if the Switch Pro is not announced at E3 this weekend or at Jeff Keighley Fest on Thursday. In fact, I think it will be announced at Jeff Keighley Fest, and then a bunch of games will be shown throughout the weekend for Switch Pro, kind of leading some credence to that rumor as well, because Nintendo and Jeff Keighley Fest get along very well, as you can tell by Sephiroth in Smash Brothers during the Game Awards. So, moving on to Jeff Keighley Fest, which is actually called the Summer Game Fest. I just like calling it Jeff Keighley Fest because that's what it is. He puts it together. He organizes the show. Him and his team, they do a great job of getting us all hype for video games, whether it's in June with the Summer Game Fest or in December with the Game Awards. Big fan of both of those shows. And I think that one of the things that you will see at Jeff Keighley Fest on Thursday is the official announcement of a Loki from Marvel skin for Fortnite. Now, Fortnite just started Season 7, an alien invasion type of season, so we have a lot of science fiction, supernatural stuff going on. Also, Loki was teased in one of the loading screens that was given to Fortnite crew members in the lead up to June, which announced the new skin for Fortnite crew members. So it stands to reason that with Loki out now, with the next Thor movie coming out soon, Season 7 having started, and those teases in the loading screen leading up to it, that the Summer Game Fest would be a perfect time to show off Loki in Fortnite. Do I think he'll drop that day? That's a maybe. They may wait till Saturday. They've been doing a lot of premium skins on Saturday now, but I definitely think he will be announced at Jeff Keighley Fest. Loki in Fortnite. Book it. Okay, next one on the list here is another guest prediction. This time we are taking it from Brittany Sperlin of Ven.tv, one of the writers I had the good fortune of sharing Ven with when I was there. She is great at what she does. She writes a lot of good stuff, and she will also be working with Screen Rant for E3, so check out her stuff there. Her prediction is that we will finally get some Elder Scrolls 6 information. So far, the only thing we have seen is that one brief teaser at E3 2018, I want to say. The E3 that had the Andrew WK concert for Rage 2. I'm pretty sure that was 18. So, yeah, she thinks we'll get some more information there. She doesn't think we'll get anything like a release date or anything like that. But at the very least, we'll get the title of the game, like Elder Scrolls 6, like the Elder Scrolls 5 was Skyrim. We'll get the location of Elder Scrolls 6, where in Thetis, not Thetis, that's Dragon Age. Where in Tamriel, where in Tamriel the game will be taking place. And she also threw a little caveat in here that she thinks that Elder Scrolls 6 will remain multi-platform. She thinks that PlayStation, despite Xbox owning Bethesda, that the Elder Scrolls will remain on PlayStation consoles, which I think that's a risk right there. I don't think she did add the caveat that Starfield, which should be blown out this year, will get an Xbox exclusive, and I do think that's correct. But Elder Scrolls 6 saying multi-platform is interesting. I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't trust that that's going to happen. But I do agree with Elder Scrolls 6 getting some more information at this year's E3, because it's been 3 years, if memory serves, since that original teaser. Even if the game's not coming out until 2023 or even early 2024, now is the time to drop a little more info, drop a little more breadcrumbs for the Elder Scrolls fans that are waiting with bated breath for something to play other than Elder Scrolls Online. Back to my predictions now, going to Nintendo, and I think that one of the feature games at Nintendo's E3 Nintendo Direct will be Mario Kart 9. Now, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best-selling game on the Switch, remains there, even with Animal Crossing's push, per the last numbers. However, I do also think it is time for a new Mario Kart. They can capitalize on all those owners of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and put a new one on the Switch, especially if the Switch Pro is real, because those visuals could look out of sight for a brand new Mario Kart game. I do think we're going to see a Mario Kart 9 here. How it will be different, that I haven't been able to put my finger on. The hovering and driving upside down of Mario Kart 8 was an interesting decision. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to top that, but I do think we see Mario Kart 9 coming up in the Nintendo Direct on Tuesday. Elsewhere, now I'm not entirely sure where this announcement would be made. It could be at Jeff Keighley Fest. It could be elsewhere in the weekend somewhere that I'm not really thinking about. Maybe Capcom, their presentation on Monday. But I think that the King of Fighters 15... which is made by SNK. They've been revealing characters every Wednesday for months now. I think that they are going to unveil the first ever guest team in King of Fighters history, and that will be Team Street Fighter, Ryu, Chun-Li, and Guile. I think those three will make the jump over to the King of Fighters 15 because collaboration has been the name of the game in fighting games in recent memory, whether it's guest characters in games or the fighting games round table that the companies have been holding recently. So I think that in those discussions somewhere, the agreement was made to bring a Team Street Fighter to the King of Fighters 15, and Ryu, Chun-Li, and Guile will be those decisions. And conversely, Street Fighter V's fifth character will also be announced as a guest character from SNK, but I haven't quite put my finger on whether I think that's going to be Kyo Kusanagi or Terry Bogard. Terry Bogard seems to be everywhere, so they may be trying to do something else, but then again, he's Terry Bogard, and he's everywhere. So, not entirely sure who the guest is going to be, but I do think that's going to happen at this event, at one of these events this weekend. Next up, we have our third guest prediction of the show, and that is from the editor-in-chief of MMORPG.com and a great friend of mine for nearly over half a decade now, and that is Mr. Joe Bradford from out there on the West Coast. Joe Bradford, I reached out to him a little while ago to get his best prediction for E3, and he gave me Elder Scrolls 6, so I told him, okay, give me your second best one. Elder Scrolls 6 is already taken, and he decided a similar sort of prediction, but we will get a first look with gameplay and world environments and stuff like that for Fable 4. I am with him on this. I think Playground Games is itching to get something out. We haven't seen anything but that first teaser back in July of last year. I do think we're going to get a little bit of gameplay. We'll get a little like a CGI trailer maybe with some gameplay sprinkled in, explaining the world and the characters and stuff like that. I don't think it's going to be one of those deep dives that Xbox sometimes does, where they spend 7 or 8 minutes on a game. I don't think it'll get that much time, but I do think that Fable 4 is going to happen at the Xbox Bethesda conference on Sunday, because it really has to. I mean, if they skip it, then people are really going to be worried that it's not happening or that something's really, really wrong with it. So Fable 4, look for it. I am convinced it's going to happen. All right, next up we have, this is an interesting one. I feel like many people may have forgotten about this originally, but I think we're going to see a little more of this. So Intellivision, an old brand, Intellivision is bringing out a new console called the Amico, and they have a presentation happening throughout the weekend. I'm not exactly sure if it's Saturday or Monday. It's one of those 2 days. I don't remember what day it is. But they do have a thing coming. And I think the last time they had a presentation, there was a tease for a Amico exclusive game coming to the console at some point. And I think that during this weekend, we're going to get a lot more information on that. And that is a brand new Earthworm Jim. There is a quick video, maybe 10 to 15 seconds of visuals for this brand new Earthworm Jim. And I think that this Amico presentation will make Earthworm Jim a cornerstone, considering it's an exclusive game for the system, and really blow out the gameplay and what we can expect from this new Earthworm Jim, maybe even a title or something like that. So look for new Earthworm Jim, and people to be like, whoa, there's a new Earthworm Jim, and you heard it here first. Yes, go back and look at the Intellivision, I think it's a Television Lives or Television Live is what they're called. There was some slight gameplay of Earthworm Jim, so when that big reveal happens, you are prepared because you listened to this podcast. My next one is a lot more controversial. It's a much less vague, much less niche, very, very much in the front facing of everything in video games right now, and that is, I think Halo Infinite's getting a Battle Royale. I feel like Halo would fit very well into the Battle Royale genre, that all of the other major shooters are at least experimenting with. Now, Battlefield did not announce a Battle Royale mode during their presentation today. Then again, they didn't really announce anything. It was a 5-minute trailer with information spread out in press releases throughout all the articles that you could read. But I think Halo Infinite getting a Battle Royale at some point is definitely going to happen. It's going to be announced this Sunday during the Xbox and Bethesda conference. It won't be the only multiplayer. There will be standard Halo multiplayer, but I do think a Battle Royale is in the cards as well. The Warzone of Halo, let's say. Not sure what you would call it. Not sure how the classes would work or anything like that. But I think it's coming. I do think a Battle Royale for Halo Infinite is inevitable. And I would not be surprised if it is announced this Sunday. All right, now number 4 of the guest predictions comes from one Patrick Shanley. Pat Shanley was my editor at The Hollywood Reporter. He was my editor at Venn before I left there. A recent father, just had his first child, so congratulations to him. And now he is running a podcast called The Donkey Con Artists, which is a great name, Donkey Con Artists. He co-hosts it with I don't remember the name of the co-host. Sorry, Patrick. Sorry, co-host. But it's a fantastic podcast where they talk about things in the gaming industry that I highly recommend. When you're done listening to this one, you go check out The Donkey Con Artists. His podcast, his prediction for this podcast is not a very difficult one to wrap your head around. It's basically that we're going to finally get new news on Breath of the Wild 2, and I think that you can put a stamp on that it is a big, big chance that we're going to get that as well. How could you not? How could you not get more Breath of the Wild 2 information when we haven't had any in 2 years? And what else does Nintendo have in the pipeline right now? There's probably stuff that we don't know about, but what else could they possibly blow out than Breath of the Wild 2 in this Nintendo Direct? So I fully expect more Breath of the Wild 2 news. I think that Patrick Shanley is onto something here. And I don't know if it's going to be like a deep dive, like the time they spent 25 minutes with Smash Bros. Ultimate. I don't know if it's going to be something like that, or if it's going to be maybe a little bit less time, but some substantial information. I would expect maybe 8 to 10 minutes at least on Breath of the Wild 2. That sort of blowout, a trailer, and then some new gameplay mechanics, maybe some new parts of the world, that sort of thing. But yeah, I think Breath of the Wild 2 is a shoo-in for this coming E3. And now, speaking of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, we're going to talk about the last 2 DLC characters. Now, there has been some good names thrown out to fill those 2 slots. Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden is one of them. I was on that train for a while. Crash Bandicoot is another big one. I'm also on that train too. But the one I think is going to be announced here at E3 is from a series that is criminally underrated in the current Smash Bros. Roster. And by that I mean it has 1 representative. And also follows the trend of Super Smash Bros. Characters that were added in Ultimate, focusing on the villains, the bad guys of the series that they come from. And I think that Sonic the Hedgehog's rival, Dr. Eggman, Dr. Robotnik for you old folks, will be added to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as a playable character. Sakurai has mentioned that it is not so much the notoriety of the character that gets them in as it is the ideas that make them fun to play. And I think that Eggman can be fun to play. You take King Dedede's ability to summon minions from the previous games. He only summons the little spiky guy now. But in previous games, he could summon minions, and Eggman could build minions on the fly to attack his opponents. He could use his little flying device to get across the stage. He could summon that big Sonic 2 Final Boss robot or the Sonic 3 Final Boss robot as a final smash. There's potential there. There's definitely potential for Dr. Eggman in Smash, and I think he would make a perfect candidate to get one more Sonic representation in that game before, it seems, the downloadable content for Smash is done forever. Do I want it to be done forever? No. But I think this might be it. Sakurai has said multiple times this is it. He's moving on to greener pastures after this. Power to him. He made a hell of a game. But I'm still going to be sad that it's over. But Dr. Eggman, Dr. Robotnik in Smash Brothers is my prediction. Feel free to tell me I'm wrong when the trailer hits on Tuesday. Now, this next one's a little weird. It takes a little bit of explanation. So, IO Interactive, who makes Hitman, is talking about how they are making a James Bond game. They recently announced plans to make a James Bond game. But also, in the press for that James Bond announcement, plus the Hitman stuff going on, they mentioned that they were making a fantasy RPG, unlike anything they'd ever made before, and that it was a franchise that the dev team was, or it was a game that the dev team was really, really excited about. I have an article here from Eurogamer that gives the exact quote, which came from a report by Windows Central. They're working on a fantasy IP for Xbox, which features dragons. The direct quote here is interesting. This quote is from the boss of IO, Hakan Abrak, or I think is how you say it. He says, without going into too much detail, we have a third universe that we're working actively on, which is a bit different and absolutely a love child. It is something our core people, our veteran staff, have been dreaming about for some time. Nothing in this information says that it's an original IP. It just says it's an IP, a third IP, like how Project 007 is James Bond, and they have Hitman. I think this fantasy RPG that features dragons is Game of Thrones. I think IO Interactive is working on a Game of Thrones action RPG sort of game. It's a kind of franchise that could be called a dream for some time. It could be absolutely a love child. There's definitely dragons in it. And I feel like there's something is telling me that this IO Interactive RPG is Game of Thrones. Now, will we see anything on it? That I don't know. I don't know if that's actually going to be a thing that happens. It might be too early in development. I may be predicting for E3 2023 or 2022 at this rate. But something is telling me that this IO Interactive Fantasy Dragon RPG IP is Game of Thrones, which really hasn't had any perfect representation in video games outside of Telltale series. Telltale series was very good, but Atlas made a Game of Thrones RPG at one point that we just don't talk about. So IO Interactive coming in and taking a stab at it, no pun intended, would be amazing. So I hope that one, if any of these rumors eventually come true, maybe not at this E3, but at a future E3, I hope that's one of them. Moving on from that, our final guest prediction of the show comes to us from a former guest of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast and the host of Spawn on Me. That's Mr. Khalif Adams. Khalif graciously sent over a prediction in response to my Twitter DM that he thinks Xbox will announce another studio acquisition. He did not get into what studio that would be. And I've been racking my brain to try and think of what that could be. But every time I try and guess, they surprise me. Like Double Fine was a huge surprise at 2019. So I don't know who they would be bringing in. But I agree. I think one more, maybe two more studios under the Xbox banner does make a lot of sense. Bungie would be interesting and also ironic. I don't think that's going to happen, though. The aforementioned IO Interactive is also one that could be considered, but they just became independent after being owned by, I want to say, WB or Square Enix or one of them for a really long time. So I would imagine they'd want to stay independent for the time being. There's a lot of ideas, a lot of choices, a lot of interesting things to consider. But yeah, I do think another studio acquisition could be announced on Sunday. Just an interesting idea of who. And now we are on to the final two predictions of this segment. The first one is something that has been heavily rumored for a very long time, and I just think that it's going to happen. I think NetherRealm's next fighting game is another superhero-style game, but it will be Marvel versus DC. I don't know why I have this feeling, but I think it's going to be more than Injustice 3. It's going to be Marvel characters and DC characters fighting each other in a NetherRealm-style fighting game that will blow the doors off the internet and just make everyone absolutely crazy, bringing those two major properties together with dream matches like Wolverine versus Batman and Captain America versus Superman and just all the different matchups that you could think of in that sort of collaboration. I think that's going to happen. I think there's been a lot of rumors with that. I think there's a lot, and Ed Boon is the perfect troll for those sorts of things. So yeah, I'm ready to book that, and maybe it's just because I really want it to happen. But Marvel versus DC by NetherRealm is one of my predictions. And finally, the final prediction of E3 2021 is the return of one of my favorite gaming mascots. And again, I kind of want this to happen just because I know how much I'll enjoy it if it does happen. And that is the return of Banjo-Kazooie. I think Xbox is finally ready to give us the new Banjo-Kazooie game that we have always wanted, and I think this is the perfect year to do it. Banjo was recently reintroduced to the gaming world per his inclusion in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in September of 2019, and I think now the time is ripe to bring him back full throttle in his own platforming style game. I don't know if it would be like a 3D platformer or if it would be something different, but either way, I think Banjo is coming back with his bird friend Kazooie, and it won't have anything to do with nuts or bolts. So there you have it. Those are the E3 predictions from Cheesesteaks and Controllers. 10 from me, 5 from friends of the show. Thank you to John Jansen, to Brittany Sperlin, to Joe Bradford, to Patrick Stanley, and to Kyle Leaf Adams for shoving those predictions my way. Appreciate you answering me on short notice, some of you. And I look forward to a fantastic week of crazy news and crazy announcements in this gaming industry that we love so much. E3 is finally back in some shape or form. And the weekend is looking insane for gamers everywhere. And with that, that is the end of episode number 52 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeart Radio, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Thank you to Will English IV for coming on and talking about June Joust. Thank you to Ben Schlegel. Let's get it right this time. Ben Schlegel from the VP of Events from Nerd Street Gamers, coming on talking about the return to live events in July, and then everybody who contributed to the E3 predictions that you just heard. With that, we are signing off. Thank you so much as always for listening. Catch you all next week with a ton of gaming news to report and a lot of recaps happening. Enjoy E3. Enjoy Summer Game Jeff Keighley Fest. I will speak to you next week. Goodbye.